Okay, so we're moving on to lesson 2. It's called congruence. And so we're going to be able to write congruent statements for congruent figures. Congruent meaning, from last chapter, same size, same shapes. So they have another way of saying that: equal matching sides and equal matching angles. These pentagons are congruent. They have the same shape and size. These rectangles are not congruent. They have same shape but different sizes. So we're talking about things that are congruent today. So this side. So it says corresponding parts of congruent figures. If two figures are congruent, their corresponding sides are congruent, so the sides that look the same are the same, and their corresponding angles, or the angles that look the same, are the same. So this one would say triangle ABC is congruent, there's our symbol, to triangle DEF. So our congruent angles, A and D, are in the same spot. B and E are both of the right angles, and C and F. Notice we have the angle signs and the congruent. To do sides, we have to have the side length, the notation above the A, B is a line, is congruent to DE. And we should go from A to B. If we go from A to B, we should not go from E to D. We should go from D to E. B to C, we should go from E to F, just like they're doing. Congruence. To indicate that sides are congruent, an equal number of tick marks, so you see here this side 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, is drawn on the corresponding sides. To show that angles are congruent, equal number of arc marks, so we've got 1, 1, a right angle, and then 2 here, is drawn in corresponding angles. The angles on sides have to match, especially when you're writing congruent statements. Otherwise, they don't actually correspond, and that would be wrong. So we've got a vocab word here on slide 3. In the figure below, the two triangles are congruent because DEF is the image of triangle ABC reflected over this line M. So they've reflected it kind of over the y-axis, it would appear to me, but they just put a line there since it's not on a coordinate plane. The notation triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF is read as triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So when we see those symbols, that's what it means in words. So we do have a vocab word, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight it if you want to pause and write it on your vocab sheet. The corresponding congruent figures that match or correspond are called corresponding parts. Congruent parts, order matters. I think that writing a congruent statement helps because here you know that A goes with D, B goes with E, C goes with F, AB goes with DE, BC goes with EF, AC, DF. They all go in order. And if we can write them in alphabetical order, that will be helpful for all of us. Okay, so slide 4. It says triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. Write congruent statements comparing the corresponding parts. Then determine which transformations map triangle ABC onto XYZ. Congruent angles have the same measure and congruent sides have equal angles. So a congruent statement, we could say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. That would be our congruent statement. Congruent angles, that would be A and X, and they look the same, B and Y, C and Z. So angle A is congruent to angle X, comma. Angle B is congruent to angle Y, comma. Angle C is congruent to angle Z. Congruent sides, so notation we have AB with a line over it, is congruent to XY. AB, XY. They look the same, comma. BC is congruent to YZ. And I like to go first and last. AC is congruent to XZ. So the transformations that would get us from here to here looks like we would reflect over the y-axis. And then it looks like we would translate it down. So let's be specific on those transformations. Okay, slide 5, very similar. Congruent angles, well, we get to assume that these are congruent. So quadrilaterals do not have a symbol that goes out in front like a triangle. So I'm going to go MNOP is congruent to, A would go with M, B, K, S. Congruent angles, we have 4 of them here. So if we use this symbol, angle M is congruent to angle A, comma, angle N is congruent to angle B, comma, angle O is congruent to angle K, comma, angle P is congruent to angle S. Sides, we have 4 sides here, so MN and AB. So side MN is congruent to side AB, comma, NO goes with BK, no Burger King. OP goes with KS. Watch your symbols, your notation. And MP, first and last here, goes with AS. The transformation, this one looks like we would have just reflected it along a, we'll call that, since we don't have a y-axis, but it's a reflection along a vertical line. So we'll just call it a vertical reflection. Okay, a couple more where we apply the sides of the same. Find missing measures. You can use the properties of congruent figures to find missing measures of angles and sides in a figure. Miley is using a brace to support a tabletop. In the figure, BCE is congruent to DFG. So these B and D go together. E and G, and then C. I don't know that it's a right angle for sure. If the measure of angle CEB, CEB, so it's going to be this one. They could have wrote it as angle E. Well, there's 2 of them. Anyway, what is the measure of FGD? So they're asking for that one. So if this one is 50, since they're congruent, it would be the measure of angle FGD is 50 degrees. What about a length one here? It says, in the figure above, if the length of CE is 2 feet, what is the length of FG? Well, since CE and FG are congruent, and you could look here, CE and FG, that means that the length of FG is 2 feet as well. Okay, one more where we have to apply a little bit more reasoning and some other math things here. It says, in the figure, triangle ABC, so A goes with E. So this one kind of funny. B goes with B, obviously, that makes sense. It's also a vertical angle. And C goes with D. Which also means if we were to put side lengths on here, AB goes with EB. So AB, BE. BC, which is here, 2 tick marks, goes with BD. And the last one, AC, 3 tick marks, goes with ED. Find the value of x. Well, we know that x is over here. And what do we know about this side length? It has 3 tick marks, and so does this one, and it's 22. So what we can do is we can just set them equal to each other since they're both supposed to be equal. Now we have a 2-step equation. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. We get 4x equals 24. Divide by 4. We're going to end up with x equals 6. It would be okay if you put centimeters on it, but since x doesn't have the centimeters on it in there, I'm not going to put the centimeters on it. Okay? It's a good day to turn your life around. Have a great day.